Right, it's estimated that 80% of people who've committed suicide have suffered depression at some point. Now, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group is hoping to reach out to teenagers to try and get them to recognize the warning signs of the symptoms of depression. It's all part of Teen Suicide Prevention Week. We're talking to Nkini Phasha of that group. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us this evening, Nkini.
Thank you.
I was looking at this interesting statistic. Between 75 and 80% of people who do end up committing suicide have spoken about it to someone at some point before. I mean, this dispels the myth that people who talk about it don't go through with it.
Absolutely, and I think it's quite alarming. I think the statistics that we're seeing, they're also quite conservative, considering that we are not reaching as many communities as we would like to. However, it's telling us that the problem is really, it's increasing, it's on the increase, and it's alarming. And we need to do something about it. If you look at teen deaths, there's 9.5% of teen deaths are due to suicide. So that is telling us that more and more of our young people are actually looking to suicide as a solution.
I mean, you look at teenagers, there are all sorts of stereotypes around those years. You know, you half expect teenagers to be moody, to go through periods where they don't talk to people, and they struggle with the difficulties surrounding that transition into adulthood. Does teenage depression have specific symptoms that we should look out for?
Absolutely, indeed. And as you indicated, that there is a strong association between depression and suicide. So signs of change in mood. Where eating patterns also change, sleeping patterns change, but also we know that, those teenagers, they will start to feel hopeless and feel completely helpless, very irritable. And also bearing in mind that, young people have not fully developed, so they're not able to really step back and rationalize a lot of things. So they tend to be very impulsive in how they actually, deal with things. Very often they withdraw, they lock themselves up in a room, they don't want to engage with the things that they actually enjoyed doing previously. But also they start to talk more about death. They start to give away the things that are valuable to them, that they previously held very dear to them. They start giving them away. They start talking about death. They start talking about, how will be the best way for them to actually take away their lives. So those are just some of the key signs and symptoms that we certainly can look out for in our young people.
Nkini, I look at the sort of the lives many of our teenagers, millions in fact, of teenagers in our countries lived. They're disadvantaged, many of them. They come from fragmented families. There's poverty, a lack of opportunities, sexual attacks on them. I mean, are we living in a country where our teenage population is particularly vulnerable to suicide?
Absolutely. There is no doubt that, our young people, they are really faced with, huge challenges. We are living in a very, violent society. So that as well has, has its repercussions, if I can, put it like that. So the effects are starting to show obviously in our young people, how they're deciding to deal, with whatever it is that they're confronted with. There's easy access, to drugs, and other substances in our schools. Bullying is another big issue in our schools. And very often with bullying, we tend to focus on the victim, neglecting the fact that actually the perpetrator themselves could actually be, battling to deal with an underlying challenge, with an underlying problem, that they're confronted with. So certainly, I think our young people in this day and age, they really, are almost like overwhelmed with everything that is happening in our society. There's a lot of expectations on our young people. There's huge pressure, to do well and to perform and achieve. So that also comes with its own set of problems. But also the dynamics have changed. Our families are no longer the same. You have many families that are single parent headed families. Back in the day where you have some of the communities like your African communities, where there was that extended family giving that support, that has completely changed. So we are seeing different dynamics in this day and age, and that compounds to the kind of problem and this trend that we are seeing.
A week is not a heck of a long time in the bigger picture, Nkini. How do you hope to make a difference in this week?
We are going out in full force. We've got programs that we run throughout the year. However, this week is obviously purely dedicated, to reaching out to as many young people as possible. We're going out, we're giving talks. We've got programs called, Suicide Should Not Be a Secret is one of the key programs that we conduct in our schools. Really going out there, number one, creating awareness, but also, destigmatizing, issues around mental illness, and really encouraging young people to say, if you are confronted with this situation or you see it in your friend, speak up. There is help. We are able to at least attempt, to prevent a possible suicide. We're looking at more than at least 23 suicides that are successful in our country. 230 people attempt suicide every single day in South Africa. So really our task is huge in terms of really going out there and start shaping and changing the perceptions that we are seeing in our young people.
I wish you the best of luck with your initiative. Thank you very much for talking to us, Nkini Phasha.